just finished my readings for today, and I had so much to talk about. One of the main things is that the more I read this book, the more I realize how traditional publishing really prices out working class people from reading. It's one of those things that there's so many memes that you'll see online about how like people spend the rent money on books and so on and so forth, and that's the truth. Like, people that really like to read, a lot of us like will spend like a lot of money on like books. And I think that's why piracy is such a thing that people really gravitate to, because like this stuff shouldn't be out of our reach. Like, we should be able to pick up books if we want to. And don't get me wrong, like we have libraries and that's fucking dope. Like, support your local library, right? We should also be able to have a bookshelf in your house of like books that really mean something to you and you really identify with. But the reading had this, and I wrote down the quote, right? The suggested retail price of a conventionally published book is typically 8 times the cost of printing and shipping each copy. The reason given in the reading as to why that is because you have the artist who makes the product, you have the printing press that produces and manufactures that product, then you have the logistics team, right, who's working on behalf of the distributor who wants to get it to a bookstore. So like all these people now need their cut, their segment, right? And because of that, they're saying 8 times what it costs to make and to ship. So like, to put that into perspective, like the average issue of Feral Comics costs roughly about 85 cents to produce and to ship. So that means if you were to do that 8 times, right, that means that Feral Publications zines would be being sold for about $7. Like, that's the kind of markup that there is, or that they argue is needed for traditional distribution services. I think that's why working class people get priced out of these kind of books. And that's something I think that distributors as well as creators should be trying to work against. They should be trying to fix that. There shouldn't be a reason why they need to be marked up so high. Like, there needs to be a better system. And that's one of the things we're trying to do, right? We are trying to build a better system outside of this mainstream system that really isn't working for working class people. After that, the book talked about just like, that's why some people prefer to use their platform to sell the things directly to consumers. The next section talks about, ultimately, that's why a lot of businesses are kind of vying more for a direct-to-consumer model. Something that Fantagraphics does really good is that they do have a direct-to-consumer like segment of their business, and then they have the Amazon, other stuff that they do, but you know, the direct-to-consumer segment is really large. I obviously think it's like a multi-channel system that you need, but like D2C for me is definitely going to be the way. I'm going to build this platform that we're building now and really lean into that and just directly vend this stuff to the community. And then the last thing that they kind of showed me that I really found interesting was they kind of show you the nuts and bolts of the layout for a bookstore. Now, I found it interesting because it just kind of like, it shows you how much space is segmented out for what genre. And in that way, it just kind of gave me to understand like what's working and what's selling. Because I assume a lot of times like you should benchmark against companies that you think are leading your industry, right? So like if I look at Barnes and Nobles and really see and figure out how much of what they're carrying, I think it's a safe assumption that that's probably relative to the amount of sales that they generate from it, right? So like they wouldn't give half the store to a genre that isn't selling, right? That's why when you go in there, you'll see one section of graphic novels, and then you'll see like 5 lanes of straight up manga, right? They make more off manga than they are off traditional comics, and because of that, it's reflected in their layout. So I definitely found that interesting. That was something that it made me think of like, this book is kind of dated, so like I wonder now what is the shelf space for a lot of these for these bookstores and the genres that they're really leaning into and that's really working for them. Like, what does that look like today? Like for me, I used to have a media list for community organizing as well as a media list for Dirt Dog of like people that I knew would be interested in the story and I could reach out to. And that's something that I've never built for furrow publication, but it's something that after this reading, I think might be more homework for me to do later down the road. But alright, you guys, that's all I got for you guys today. As always, there will be a link in the show notes to take you to furrowpublication.com, where you guys get the books, buttons, zines, t-shirts, stickers, and other good stuff that I make. Like, share, subscribe, and guess what? I do this daily, so even though I be tired, I get home late, I'll see you tomorrow. Late.